keep it alive through these lines I write. I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here, holding these days hostage, and I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares, nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling them flares. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch a scenario on stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away, asthmatic.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Yeah, just nod your head with it, so explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it, no scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool, hear my heartbeat, beat into the vocals. I'm so loco, lost my mind, oh no. It's ponderoso, dope, so no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones, bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in, full time to the 10. I'm on my clock like I told you. I'm doing this for dreams we pursuing.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio Show. Once again, your host Nick Bernabe here on UCY.tv. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm really happy to be back with you. Sorry we had a few second delay there. My program crashed on me right as I was getting ready to start this call. Anyway, technical difficulties aside, we got a great show in store for you tonight. We got a bunch of crazy news from over the weekend. A bunch of elections went down and maybe some surprising results that we're going to talk about. Make sure you join us here on UCY.tv at the Anti-Media Radio 5 days a week at the same place, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. I'm here Monday and Wednesday with my panel, S.M. Gibson, Tuesdays and Thursday, Levon on Fridays. And, you know, we're just breaking down the news and bringing you the stuff that you may not hear anywhere else. And, you know, hopefully it makes a difference and can help you get informed, whether it's on politics, environment, global affairs, foreign policy, all that good stuff. You name it, you know, we're covering it. If you want to call in and join this conversation tonight, you can, 718-717-8296. We do have a couple of rules. If you do call in, mute your microphone and mute your radio in the background, and we'll get to you based on your area code. So you can call in if any of the topics that we're talking about interest you, or, you know, whatever. Give us a call and we'll talk about it. And if you're prank calling us or if you're trolling us, I think we're going to hang up on you. So we don't censor opposing views here, but, you know, let's have a conversation. Let's keep it civil. Let's do it. Let's start off by introducing our panel. First off, my longtime co-host, DB Schwartz. What's up, bro?
Hey, man, not a whole lot, dude. Just watching world events, and also checked out that town hall tonight. And, man, I think Hillary got resoundingly stomped pretty badly and basically parroted Bernie the whole time. So what was looking like a long shot's looking like a race now.
Yeah, there was it 4 Democratic states went up this over the weekend, I think it was, and Bernie Sanders won 3 of them. And Hillary Clinton walked away with 1. If you're watching the mainstream media, you probably didn't get that news. I mean, I read an article on New York Times that said that this doesn't change the fact that Hillary Clinton is going to be the nominee. I mean, she just got blown out over the weekend. She lost 3 out of 4. And they're already saying, like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. She's, the inevitable nominee. And again, this whole Hillary Clinton thing, I don't know how she's getting any votes at all, and it just blows my mind.
She's just completely out of touch, dude, and so is the corporate media. And they've lost the millennial generation. So I honestly don't know how the so-called elites are going to be able to hold their power much longer except without conflict.
Yeah, it's getting really interesting out there, and people are really paying attention. We've made this connection before between the Ron Paul phenomenon 2012 versus what's going on here with Bernie Sanders. Much bigger movement here with Bernie Sanders. Way more people involved, if you look at what happened with Ron Paul, it created a major waves in the political atmosphere, and it started a lot of balls rolling, I guess you can call it, and it changed a lot of things. And that's probably what's going to end up happening here with Bernie Sanders. I mean, there's no one can tell you how this thing's going to play out. We can tell you how they want it to play out. And for the longest time, it's been pretty well known that the Democrats want Hillary Clinton, the Republicans want Marco Rubio. And the media has been kind of playing into that, and we're going to have to see how it plays out. It's a very interesting dynamic, and we've been covering this constantly, and we're going to continue tonight. We've got a great article about Hillary Clinton written by the awesome Claire Bernish, who's also joining us on the call now. What's up, Claire?
Not much. What's going on?
Oh, hanging in there. Very interesting voting over the weekend. Trump and Cruz now are Cruz is making a major comeback. And they pretty much split the states up, and this is the pretty messed up phenomenon that we're dealing with the Republicans, is that if Trump doesn't win, I mean, we're looking at a kind of a paleo-fascist. I don't know how to classify the guy. He sounds kind of like a paleo-conservative. He sounds kind of like a fascist, very isolationist in his economic...
Cro-Magnon capitalist?
Yeah, he's a Cro-Magnon. There you go, that's a good one. So you got this, Cro-Magnon capitalist, and then you got then you got Ted Cruz on the other hand, which is pretty much, wants to run a religious dictatorship.
He's also a booger eater.
Yeah, he ate a booger in the last debate. That was really weird, really, really weird. And then if he fails, then you got Marco Rubio, which is Bush 3.0. And so, when you're looking at that, there's really no good options there. And with Cruz, I guess you know a little more about what you're getting. With Rubio, that's Bush 3.0. With Trump, I mean, the only good thing about Trump is that you don't know what he's actually going to do, and that's the only thing that could possibly be good. But there's a really high probability that's going to be really bad. And this is I seen this profile from the New York Times. It was like the first profile they did on Hitler back in the early 30s, I think it was.
Wasn't he Times Man of the Year?
At one point he was, yeah, he was. And there's been some very interesting figures to get on the front cover of Time magazine. Obama's been on it. I think Putin's been on it. Trump may be the next guy to be on there. I don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see. But I was looking at this profile they did on Hitler in the New York Times. It was like the very first time they ever covered him, and man, the what they were saying, it's so reminiscent of what the kind of thing Trump is tapping into. They're basically saying, oh, he's just saying this anti-Semitic stuff to get elected and that kind of thing. He doesn't really mean it. And we've kind of thrown that idea around. I know in my own personal conversations, I've said it too. It's like, Trump, I don't think Trump's that dumb, and in order to be that xenophobic, you got to be pretty dumb. So I've made the comments before in my own private conversations about how, well, maybe Trump is just saying this xenophobic stuff just to rile, because he knows how dumb the average Republican voter is, and he's just trying to rile them up and get the votes. And then when he gets elected, he's actually not going to do all this crazy stuff he's saying. That's the same stuff they were saying about Hitler back in the 30s, man. And I read that and I was like, oh my, geez, that's crazy.
It's the thing with the narcissism, though. I mean, you never know what a narcissist like that will do. And when they have that many people, kind of just parroting what it is that they're saying, whatever it is, and in this case it's xenophobia, he might do anything just to be popular, to stay in power, to kind of, pacify everybody that follows him. So we never know.
Exactly, and so that's the thing, and it could be that he is just, it could be that he is just saying what he's saying to get elected, and maybe he's saying what he's saying because he actually believes in. He's going to do all this stuff, and that's not an outcome that anybody wants to see. But on the other hand, I mean, with most of these other candidates, you got really no good choices there, especially with Hillary Clinton. I think Hillary Clinton is really dangerous, and we're going to talk about her because she's so slimy when it comes to these positions that she's now taking. Claire, you got a great article on the site today on the antimedia.org about Hillary Clinton. The title of it is Hillary pushes clean water for Flint, voted for chemically polluted water for the rest of us. And I mean, we've been covering the Hillary hypocrisy since the race started, and this one is just another little bit of icing on the cake. So Claire, let's talk about this. It's about these chemicals called MTBE, and I didn't even know about these up until I read your article earlier today. But Hillary Clinton's out there in the debate. She, and I think it was one of these candidates. I think it was Hillary's campaign that said, "Hey, we should have a debate out in Flint so we could kind of show how bad it is out there and stuff like that." And now Hillary Clinton's out there at the debate saying that, how she cares about clean water and how she's going to help get people good drinking water and this, that, and the other. But looking back at her voting record, it tells a little bit of a different story, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, she's all indignant about what happened to the people of Flint, which, we should be. But she says that coming from a position where there was a proposal to ban MTBE, which was a fuel additive. I don't know exactly when it came into use, but by the 1990s, it was pretty well known that it was contaminating the drinking water supply, like all over the country. And there was a proposal to ban the substance, but she was, like in her Senate campaign, she was receiving a bunch of money from Big Oil, who actually manufactured the stuff, and she voted against the ban that would have stopped it right there. And so she's saying that she's all, keep the water clean and save the people, and she wasn't even about to do the same thing for everybody in the country. Just, that was in 2005. So eventually the stuff was banned, but she never really took an active stance on it ever. At one point, her Senate office said that they would review the material when it became obvious that it was a possible carcinogen, but she never really acted on it. I mean, after she voted against the ban, that was it. So it's really, I mean, it's so hypocritical.
She needs a fracking water bubble bath.
I know. Remember that one oil guy? I can't remember what company it was. He might have been on Exxon or something. Huge fracking, huge promoter of fracking. And then he found out they were going to start fracking like right near his house, and he was like, all of a sudden he was against it. This is we're talking about Flint, Michigan, which is no one really, up until this huge lead water crisis popped off. Not many people knew about the place. I guess Michael Moore is from there, and it's probably one of those old Michigan manufacturing towns that has fallen into major despair. Like along with
it was a GM engine manufacturing hub.
Okay, so yeah, very much similar to all those areas near Detroit and out there in Michigan, and very much so in the Midwest, where they used to do a bunch of manufacturing, and now the whole area has fallen into destitute. The economy is in the gutter, and the manufacturing has fled under another policy that Hillary Clinton promoted, NAFTA. But Flint is it's not a major city by any means. They've got several hundred thousand people out there. But this MTBE ban, MTBE by 2003 was affecting at least 15 million households in the United States. 15 million households. You know, I don't know how many the average household has in it, but it's probably like 3 or 4. You know,
so like 50 million people.
Yeah, we're talking about 40, 50 million people were being affected by this chemical that Hillary Clinton decided that it wasn't anything to act on. You know, and now all of a sudden there's this thing in Flint, Michigan, and now it's like, oh, Hillary's the biggest proponent of clean water anywhere in the country. It's like, where? It's like, what universe are we living in? I mean, this is...
Well, does she own stock in Nestle? I mean...
There you go. Probably, actually. I wouldn't doubt that at all. Nestle is probably a contributor to the Clinton Foundation, too. Let's not
think about it. The average family in Flint now is getting 151 bottles of water a day supplied by Nestle.
Oh, man, that's crazy. Crazy. So, yeah, I mean, this is just another hypocritical move. Go ahead, Claire.
The thing is, too, that they knew by that time, before she voted against the ban, they knew that it was persistent in the environment, in drinking water, and that it was leaking through, faulty storage tanks in the ground. And she knew this, like, going in to vote against this ban. And so, I mean, it's so incredibly hypocritical and just terrible that she's coming out all indignant and all, outraged about Flint. And yet that's not it at all. It's like she will take any stance that she thinks people will follow all over her to get elected. And that's it. That's all that matters to her right now.
Yeah, I mean, and it's so sad that people are buying this shit. She's getting votes, man. She's getting votes out there. I don't get it. I guess people, a lot of these older, and if you look at the demographics, and DB can attest to this. She's getting all the older demographics, and these are people that consume pretty much solely television news, and that's why they're voting for Hillary Clinton. I mean, anybody with an internet connection could go to our website, search Hillary Clinton, and they would never vote for her again. I mean, I hate to borrow a line from Trump, but they wouldn't want to elect her dog catcher. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's just so much dirt, so much hypocrisy, so many flip-flops that, I mean, she is literally unelectable. I don't see her being able to beat any Republican candidate.
The thing is that, Trump's a robber baron, and we had those guys, at the beginning of the turn of the century, the JP Morgans and such, and we kind of understood they were going to buy the government, but they really were most likely going to do what made them money, and so in that way they were predictable. But Hillary is a true ideological demagogue. Like, she would try to change the country fundamentally, just like Obama has, and the more we do it, the more we split apart.
Yeah, man, and this is not even, I mean, we're talking about domestic policy here. This isn't even including the foreign policy stuff, which is probably the single biggest dark spot on her resume here. Is she's pretty much supported every single war. She's like Lieutenant Dan's bloodline or something from Forrest Gump. She supported every single war that ever was, that she had a chance to vote on, and so that kind of leads us over to our promo meme for the show tonight, which is about the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq and how they've cost, I mean, there's various estimates, $6 trillion, $5 trillion. I mean, who knows how much it's really going to cost, and when it's all said and done, if it ever is done, how much that's going to cost. I mean, look at the previous occupations that we've had around the world, Germany, Japan, Korea. I mean, we don't leave. We left Vietnam, I guess, but for the most part, we don't leave these countries once we occupy. I guess Afghanistan, I mean, the chances are we're going to have a permanent force there. I mean, there's no getting around that. Iraq, the next president's probably going to lobby for a permanent occupying force there. I mean, we're talking about wars that are going to cost our children's children down the line. And so, this is where Hillary Clinton really is, to me, the most terrifying candidate on the that's running, is because she's more hawkish than all the Republicans except for Rubio. I mean, Rubio and Clinton have pretty much the same foreign policy. All the rest of them, even Cruz, is slightly less hawkish than Hillary Clinton. And this is where Clinton really worries me. I'm scared of how much she's being pushed by the media. I mean, it's very, very clear that she's being favored over Sanders, and Sanders by no means is a perfect candidate. I think he had a few gaffes in the last debate, where at one point he said white people don't know what it's like to be poor or to live in the ghetto. I mean, I just sometimes he's a little disconnected too. But by any means, Sanders is a better candidate than Clinton. Just based on the records there. The Senate, they're both in the Senate. They both have records. Sanders was against the Iraq War. Hillary Clinton was for it. I mean, that alone, in my opinion, that would change my mind right there. But nobody ever asks Hillary Clinton about how she plans on paying for all these wars and interventions and stuff. But Sanders comes out and he's like, "Oh, I want to give everyone college and stuff," and everyone wants to ask, "Well, how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it?" Hillary's like, "Well, I want to go knock out all these countries." Well, how in the hell are we going to pay for that? You know what I mean? Like, those are the questions that aren't asked. And this is also, I guess, one of the paradoxes that I think Sanders finds himself in is that if he were to actually go out there and advocate going after the military defense budget, he would be done, like, even more than he is now. He wouldn't get any airtime. He wouldn't get any debate time. He wouldn't get any news coverage. He would definitely get the Ron Paul treatment. If you look back at 2012, Ron Paul, out of both parties, was the only one actually talking about cutting down the defense budget. And on half of his policies, I think he was very, very similar to Bernie Sanders. I think Paul was talking about paying for all the entitlements and the safety nets and all that stuff by cutting the budget out of the military and sending it back home and working on infrastructure and saving Social Security and all that stuff. Now, this is where I get lost with Sanders here, is that he recently put out a tax plan, and it's going to raise taxes on pretty much a lot of people and stuff. The money is already there, man. I mean, the United States is the public. We're already taxed at a higher rate. After you add all the nickel and dimes up from all the permits and licensing and all the crap that we have to pay for, I mean, we're already taxed at a higher rate than a lot of countries that have much better services. But the thing that we're paying for in the United States is we're paying for the empire. And all these other countries, France, France isn't a great example because they got their own little empire going too. A lot of these Northern European countries like Sweden and Finland and, Scandinavian countries, they've got, the whole free education thing. They've got high wages, very high standard of living. And yeah, they do pay 50% taxes. But, if you add up everything that we pay, we're paying around the same rates, but we don't get none of those benefits, man. We're getting stuck paying for a giant empire with military bases in 100 countries with 1,000 installations. And that's where all of our money is going for. And so that's where I get lost on Sanders, is because he doesn't really address that, and he doesn't address that huge defense budget and how that could be used to pay for all the stuff that he wants to do. But
Nick,
I also understand,
you can't address those things, because look what happened when JFK tried to address the banking cartels, dude. It's that and the military-industrial complex you don't talk about. So the next best thing is the next New Deal, or we just scrap it and go to the next system. But, of course, that's anarchy for a little while. So,
yeah, exactly. And this is the paradox that I think any real reformer candidate is going to be faced with. It's, can you really talk about the deep-rooted issues that we're facing in the United States without being completely ignored like Ron Paul was? And the answer, I think, is no. I don't think you can, unless you have the prowess of Trump, where Trump can go up there and say Bush lied about Iraq and get away with it. That's a whole different thing. Sanders doesn't have that persona. Sanders doesn't have that name recognition. He doesn't command the media the way Trump does. And so that's the dynamic there. I don't know Bernie Sanders' true feelings on the defense of the United States. I don't know his true feelings on the empire. From what I've seen, he's relatively status quo. I don't think he's hawkish like Hillary Clinton, but he's pretty status quo, at least from what I've seen in his voting record and his rhetoric on
except for the vote against Iraq. So I would say he's more He's just prudent, dude. That's the only way you can describe him.
Yeah, he's definitely more frugal, more of a realist. I think Hillary Clinton and Marco Rubio are definitely ideological when it comes to neoconservative foreign policy. They're both neoconservatives on that. And so, this is the kind of paradigm we're faced with, is that we can't really have a candidate that would really tap into the deep-rooted issues, because they would have zero chance. At least Sanders still has, a small percentage chance of actually winning here and stuff. And of course, you got all the other factors: voter fraud, electronic tampering, all the other crap that can be used against anyone that actually wants to change the system. But you can't really address these deep-rooted issues as a candidate, because then you just torpedo your chances out of the gate, and that's very much the same thing that Ron Paul did, and you saw how he was treated. I think at one of the debates he got like 30 seconds to speaking time. And so, that's the kind of thing that we're facing here, and that's why we need something bigger and better to come along here. I mean, going through this electoral process year after year, every 4 years, every 2 years, I mean, we're just dragging our feet, and just waiting around for something to happen. Something else. We gotta try something else. Something's got to be better than this. The other thing too is that the corporate media is so conglomerated now. It's controlled by so few companies, and all these companies they share all these board members. It's like a huge network of evil, where you've got the defense contractors that make money from the empire are also got board members on the media companies, so they decide how these media companies are going to operate, and they're like, oh, well, we can't cover these candidates because they're talking bad against the empire and the defense budget and all that stuff. Well, you got all these conflict of interest going on here, and these are the same people, to pull a line out of Bernie Sanders' playbook, these are the same people corrupting the election process and buying out all the candidates in the Congress and the presidential candidates and stuff like that. So, we're dealing with a huge mess here that is not looking like it's going to be cleaned up anytime soon. I think we need a big movement of disaffected people to stir something up here. And who knows, maybe this will be the last year. Maybe 2016 will be the last year where we have these status quo elections, and you get the controlled candidates like Hillary Clinton, and who knows who the Republicans are going to put forward. I mean, there's even chatter of Mitt Romney jumping back in at the convention. I mean, it's getting.
I really hope he does.
It's getting borderline hilarious, and we got a hot story coming out tomorrow. I think we're the first ones to cover this, but Claire is actually writing something up on it about this. There's a petition that was launched to have Jerry Springer host the next Republican debate. That should be pretty interesting. What do you think about that, Claire?
I think that it seems all too appropriate at this point, considering what a joke that this election and politics in general has become. I mean, you're talking about, this crazy tabloid-esque talk show host. It just seems perfect to me.
It's so crazy. I mean, reality TV, that was Trump's big, claim to fame, I guess. He was famous for being rich, I guess. But he had that Celebrity Apprentice show or whatever, and I guess Jerry Springer was really a pioneer of reality TV, I guess. I guess those shows were kind of like reality TV. We all know that they're like pretty scripted and controlled. I guess it is kind of similar to the election, though, isn't it?
I think it is. I mean, it just seems like a big scripted kind of, it's theater is what it really is. And it seems to me that's what this has really become, with Trump doing what he's doing. And I mean, the GOP debate last time just kind of fell into disarray, and you've got, the booger eating thing, and I don't even want to go into it, but I mean, it's just theater, and it's entertainment. It's not even, how does anybody even take this seriously anymore? That's why I think, Springer's just all too appropriate.
Yeah, it's reality theater. It's not so much reality TV now, because it transcends all the media. It transcends social media and all that stuff. And
as long as he focuses on small hands for like a good hour.
Yeah, Trump and his small hand, little Marco Rubio. I mean, now this thing where Sanders was being supposedly condescending against Hillary Clinton. I mean, this shit is a joke. It has become a big joke.
Nobody's really talking about, issues of vital importance to anybody, to, the people who are suffering in this country, what we're actually doing abroad, and, perpetrating the suffering of millions, if not billions, worldwide. And here we are talking about, boogers and, whatever. It's ridiculous at this point. It really is.
Yeah, and even beyond just the theatrics of it, I mean, Trump's entire campaign, it's a straw man campaign. I mean, all of the stuff that he's built his support around is all bullshit. It's all based on stuff that's not even true. I mean, Muslims and Mexicans and all the stuff that he's blaming everything on. It's all, none of it's even real. None of it's even like the real issue here. And so like his whole campaign is very much just built on fallacies. And so that itself kind of should tell you a little something about the state of electoral politics in the United States. On the other hand, you got Hillary Clinton, an open war criminal who's broken all kinds of federal laws. I mean, should be rotting in a jail cell right now, and she's running for president too.
And, if you actually listen, which is one of the wonders of the Internet, if you actually listen to people from other countries, they are already looking at the U.S. as if they didn't already, but they're looking at us even more as like a complete farce at this point. And it makes sense. I mean, look at what is actually going on in this country and how nothing can possibly be taken that seriously, even though it should be. And people are like, wow, what is wrong with you people? And I have to agree. I mean, what is wrong with this country that we have reached this point?
It's been everything they've been able to do that's dumbed down the population and made them docile through better chemistry, through paperclip scientific knowledge, through things of that nature that they've been perfecting for 70 years. They have the average American in this cocoon of fake protection where they think the government's keeping them safe. They're actually doing the opposite, and it's going to come home to roost soon. It has to.
Yeah, and the thing is too, is that as much as I can't stand Trump at all, the funny thing is that he is coming from outside of the political establishment. That's not necessarily a good thing as far as like him running the country or anything like that. But he is giving the Republican establishment, the political establishment, the media establishment a run for their money. And he's really making the whole system look bad. And I guess that's kind of a positive thing because it makes more people question the state of affairs. And then on the other end, you got Hillary Clinton winning a bunch of super delegates and kind of exposing that whole faux democratic system over there on that side. And so I don't know. It's very interesting. We got a caller on the line I'm going to go to in a couple seconds here. And I kind of want to just discuss this in a little broader view here about, what can we do really to improve this thing? As I mentioned, I mean, there's not really a good choice in this election. I mean, pretty much everyone is going to be relatively either status quo or more hawkish, or in Trump's case, at least, and several of the other Republicans have already vowed to reduce our civil liberties, go to war with the media, and reduce press freedoms and torture people extremely more than what we're already doing, kill people's families just because they're suspected terrorists. I mean, Jesus. What can we do? We got a caller on the line from 613 area code. How's it going? You're on the Anti-Media. You there?
Hey, Chris from Canada.
How's it going, Chris? So Canada's looking pretty nice right now for us people down here in the U.S. What do you want to talk about?
We have a damn fine, good-looking prime minister.
Yeah,
the son of a previous prime minister. I guess they keep it in the family here in Canada. Eh?
Yeah. Yeah, Trudeau is a pretty interesting fellow. I mean, he's already started pulling. From what I know, he started pulling the Canadian forces out of the Syrian debacle, yeah,
he's bringing them all here.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I guess the last prime minister you guys had was pretty awful. He was very George Bush-like, from what I remember.
Well, you mentioned Cruz and Clinton and Trump, and these are all just the fixed names that are planned, that you're being given, and by even mentioning these names, in my opinion, is a detriment to the true republic of the United States.
Interesting. So, what you want to talk about today?
Advertising these guys and discussing what they're doing right or wrong, or what confusion they're causing. They're all players. They're all players. They have nothing to do with the freedom that you are looking for. They're all playing a shell game with you, and to sit there and openly discuss who's good, who's bad, who might be in between, who's left, who's right, don't matter. They're all players. They wouldn't be where they are unless they were selected to be there, and you weren't the ones to select them.
So you think this electoral process is like controlled all the way through?
Well, you got. This is on. You don't get it on mainstream media, but you get it on a lot of high quality media, and UCY actually does a show with Brandon Turbeville through Activist Post, and through Activist Post, there is articles mentioning the fact that it's been whistleblowers have opened it wide open that the electronic voting system is completely rigged. And and that's from what I understand up here. I mean, it is cold, so sometimes your brain freezes. But my understanding is that's the direction you're going is in electronic voting, and that is totally rigged. So you can talk about Cruz, Bush, not Jeb anymore. I guess he jumped out. Well, who cares? Hillary, whoever. But they're going to just pick and choose who they want to be your next greatest leader to save you from, well, I don't know what they're going to
whoever the
save you
next
from.
boogeyman they create, and
Yeah.
it shifted from Al Qaeda over to.
But I just get uncomfortable with talking about even giving their names credence. All these people. There's not one. I don't. Even Donald Trump. I mean, I have friends of mine that say, you know what? Well, maybe the lesser of two evils. Well, maybe he might be able to pull something off that nobody else can. No, he's a player. They all are. They're all put in their position. They're players. One's going to win. One's going to lose. They've all been selected. And then they just play a game from there, in my opinion.
I think you're definitely onto something. I mean, they wouldn't get any play at all if they weren't part of the, if they weren't at least playing into the status quo. They may not be directly controlled, but at the very least, Trump is not a reformer. He's status quo on pretty much everything. I mean, he's going to continue the empire. He's going to do all the same crap that Obama's doing, that Bush did, and that everyone before.
Well, they all are. There's not one that's not gonna.
Yeah, I mean, I think
there's not one that's not gonna do the same thing as Trump or Bush or Clinton or Cruz or Sanders.
Yeah, and you brought up an interesting
Pierre
point.
Trudeau, for that matter.
Yeah.
You might as well have him come down and run your country.
Yeah,
they all work for the same team, and we aren't players of that team.
You brought up an interesting point about the voting machines. We have an article recently on the anti-media about how influential these machines are, and again, every computer is pretty much exploitable. There was even some reports down in Texas from just the recent Super Tuesday elections here. About vote switching on the electronic voting machines from Trump to Rubio. And so, that is something that's very big that is not talked about enough. A lot of vote rigging was going on during the 2000 elections between Bush and Gore. And just to kind of play into your point here, too, the interesting thing, if you watch, there's a great documentary called Hacking Democracy, and it's really all about these electronic voting machines. The most interesting thing I took away from watching that documentary, there was this woman down in Florida that really, she was part of the Democratic she was part of one of the Democratic committees or something like that, and she was like, she had got hot on the trail of some vote fraud going on where it was where they were giving votes to Bush over Gore. And the thing that I took away from that was so crazy, I think, to me, was that she brought this information to the Al Gore campaign. The Al Gore campaign just told her just to be quiet about it, don't say anything. I mean, this could have shifted the election to Gore. He could have won had they followed up on this information and investigated it. But instead, their campaign just said, "Oh, kill that. Don't even talk about it." So it kind of goes to play into what you were saying here about how controlled these things are. I mean, we're given this narrative that it's like, oh, the Republicans and the Democrats, they're going against each other. I think the truth of the matter is that the Democrats and Republicans are playing on the same team.
No, well, I understand where you're coming from, but and I'd be interested to hear some other viewpoints on this. But does it really matter? Because whoever they decide is going to be elected is going to toe their line, not the party line, not what you think is the party line. They're going to toe the line of the people that are running them, the people that hold the strings. So this is all a distraction, in my opinion, using names and saying, well, yeah, but the voting system cheated Bush out of Gore or whatever. It's just a distraction for us to talk about, because they could have put in the other guy just the same way and the same things would happen.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're right.
What we discuss about when we mention names, it's just a distraction for us to talk about, in my opinion. Because no matter who gets elected, they are selected, and whether it's Gore or Bush or Hillary, well, it's probably going to be Hillary this time. Good luck with you in that one, because she is a little bit nastier, I believe. Or whether Trump miraculously gets in. He's towing the party line. They don't get up there unless they toe not the party line, the line of the people that are pulling the strings above them.
The greater line, yeah. And that's what I did take away from this documentary. It really wasn't about who was going to win. It didn't really matter to them. It was already.
It doesn't matter
It was already planned out that they were going to.
So by having a discussion as to vote rigging and stuff doesn't matter. They want you to do that. That distracts your mind. You think, well, geez, if Gore had got in, wow, look at where it would be right now. Where? You'd be in the same place.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But we sit and we bicker about the unfairness of the diabolic voting system and how it's corrupted the election. Well, that's taking us away from the real issue, and that's what they want. The people that are pulling the strings don't want you to open up that curtain.
I got two more questions for you before we move on here. First of all, I think you're right, man. I'm not a voter myself. I think the whole voting system is a sham, and that even deeper than that, democratic republics throughout history have shown to be majorly flawed and have almost always resulted in oligarchy. So you said that these elections are distracting us from the bigger issues. What do you think are the bigger issues? And I mean, what do you think do you have any alternatives to the whole voting system?
Well, the voting system, the way it is set up right now, is literally a setup. So there is even, I mean, here in Canada they like to call it democracy because we don't have a republic. So the closest thing we have to a republic is a democracy, and based on this democracy, they feel the only way to get things to happen is you vote and you democratically vote in your newest flavor, which is the same as the old flavor, just a different color. So as far as the voting system itself, no, that's obviously not working. Two wolves and a sheep deciding what's for supper is not necessarily a good thing. You're asking about an alternative.
Yeah. So what do you think we should be trying to move forward with here? Because voting is shown for a long time to be very, very flawed. I mean, Rome was a
Well, I think what we need to do initially is realize that we've all been duped for. I mean, as far as our brainwashing school system is concerned, for 100+ years, we've been programmed to believe that this is the way things have to happen. I think we need to get rid of that thought right away, and go back to thinking about natural law. Do no harm. Okay, we got to get back to that basic. Like, if there was no voting, you can call it anarchism if you wish, and I don't see anything wrong with that philosophy either, by the way. But if you go back to the basics to start with and say, okay, listen, I'm going to live on this land. It's my land. I've been here. I grew up here. I was born here. My parents were. My grandparents were. In my situation, I'm sixth generation. Okay. I just want to soil my land or toil my land and live happily. I work well with my neighbors. I mean, if my neighbor needs a tomato and I got one in my garden, and he's got a green pepper in his, and I want a green pepper for supper, and he wants a red tomato, we can exchange. We don't cause any harm. We work together. I think that's a starting point, getting back to basics and back to natural law. You know, if we determine we need somebody to police our neighborhood because we feel unsafe because of unsavories, well, I got a couple of my boys that are pretty big, and they've taken some MMA training. Maybe we could suggest, and they're pretty polite and honest. They don't hurt people on purpose. We say, well, maybe we could have one of our guys walk the street, and just to keep our neighborhood safe, if it makes you feel comfortable, and move forward with that. But see, we've gone so far past that thought that we believe we all have to vote on our safety, security, how our dollars are spent, and now look at the mess we're in. We're into TPP and TPIP and NAFTA and GATT and
all kinds of messed up shit, right?
Well, it's totally gotten out of. Do you understand where I'm trying to come from? Like, I'm not trying to suggest how to change the voting system. You've been convinced that that's the way it's supposed to work, and if it don't, it'll be chaos and anarchism, and that's not true.
Yeah,
we've been conditioned to believe this.
What you're talking about here is getting back to like what would be more or less a voluntary, consensual society.
Why not?
And I mean, it's such a.
That's impossible now, right?
It's such a. Like you said, we've grown so far away from that now, where it's all about vote. You cast your vote.
Not grown. We've been conditioned away from it.
You cast your vote once every 4 years. The government fleeces you for half of what you got, and they spend the money however the hell they feel like spending it. And that's where we're at now. And I think that's why the idea that you're talking about, some people call it voluntarism, some people call it anarchism, and there are various different ways of talking about it, various philosophies and stuff. I think that's why these kind of ideas are being put out there more and more lately, and there's all of a sudden a huge pool of anarchists out there. I mean, don't get me wrong, they still make up less than like 1% of the population, but they're out there. There's people out there thinking this stuff. And they're building communities and stuff like that, and they're showing that it's working. And so it is very interesting. I like that you brought that up. I think me and DB, we used to talk about that a lot on the show. We don't as much anymore. We probably should. Now, one last question for you because we're getting short on time. How do you feel about all these people talking about moving to Canada after seeing the results of what's going on here in the United States right now?
Oh, I've just made some fun of it because I feel a lot of that is just making fun of it. I'll tell you right now, if your plans are to move to Canada to get away from your dangers, well, you're in for double over here because we are so totally owned by our government right now. Unless you, well, then again, if you're what do you call a refugee immigrant? I don't know what's the best word for that. You jump across the border when you're not supposed to. Is that a refugee or an immigrant? I forget.
One or the other.
But if you're one or the other,
refugees
you get treated rather well. So
people fleeing from like a refugees typically are someone fleeing from a hardship, from a war or from a drug war, messed up situation. Right. Immigrant are normally someone just leaving, looking for better economic situations.
Okay, well, we have a lot of both, I guess, then. But I will tell you on the plus side, if you want to move to Canada, I'm not going to be happy with you, but the government will, and the government will pay for your dental. They'll give you a nice warm place to stay, and they'll give you $84 a day for food. And within 2 weeks, you'll have your own home, and don't worry about it. We'll pay for it.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah. So but there's guys like me
American trying to get out.
There's guys like me that are starting to stand up and be rather frustrated about that concept. And those are the guys you got to avoid when you're walking down the street.
Oh man, interesting perspective. Thank you for calling in from Canada. It's always nice to hear someone from outside of the borders around here. We're gonna move on here to the next story. I mean, we got so much news. I mean, crazy weekend. Let's see, what do we got next? I was hoping Jake was gonna call in, but I think he's in transit mode. I think he's heading this way tomorrow. Jake may be in the studio with us on Wednesday, so we missed him tonight. But we got a couple other stories I wanted to talk about. There's this new app called People. I don't know if you've heard about this. We had covered it on the Anti-Media today. But it's basically an app, kind of like Yelp, but you can like rate other people. So like, I don't know. There was a big outrage about this thing, and I can kind of see both sides of this argument because I'm an avid user of Yelp. I use it to find restaurants and places when I need to go somewhere, especially when I'm in a place I'm not familiar with. It's a great tool, and it's kind of like crowdsourcing. It's kind of like what the Better Business Bureau used to do. It's like the new version where it's kind of just crowdsourced. People go to your business, and if they have a good experience, they tell you about it. If they have a bad experience, they tell you about it. So there's a new app called
People. Worked in Texas for that hole in the little barbecue place.
Yeah, exactly. It worked in Texas when we were in the middle of nowhere. This new app is like the Yelp, but for people. And so, I mean, this has caused a lot of conversation online. And I can see why. But I wanted to get everybody's perspective on this. I mean, I can see where, there's people that are going to be out there looking for revenge, and they're going to be writing bad reviews about you and stuff like that. Maybe they won't be warranted. Maybe it's someone that you never even had an experience with, and they're out there writing bad things about you. That's one aspect of it. And I know from my personal experience on Yelp, my former business, I had competitors writing bad reviews about me, and some of them stuck, and it negatively affects your ranking and that kind of thing. And so that's something to keep in mind with this app. The other side of this story is, like I said, I've used Yelp, I don't know, hundreds if not thousands of times, and it's almost always been pretty much accurate. So on the other end of this thing, it's like, well, maybe this app will help you avoid scumbags and assholes and things like that. I mean, DB, I want to go to you first since you've been so quiet, and then we'll go to Claire.
I mean, what could go wrong, Nick?
Hey, I'd write a good review for you.
Hey, that's the thing, man. It could be about anyone for anything, and it could be about any gripe and any grudge, dude. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to be anything positive coming out of this at all.
Claire, what do you think?
People are not businesses. How could this possibly be a good thing? I think the worst part about this is that even if you go in and dispute somebody's claim and they strike it from your public record or whatever, if somebody is subscribing to the service, they can still see that negative review. I mean, this just strikes me as a really, really bad idea.
But to play devil's advocate here, it's like, how many times we've all had experiences where we know people and we think they're cool, and then they end up being totally assholes or psychopaths or whatever. And so on that side of things, wouldn't it be nice to have a warning system in place where it's like, oh, cool, I just met this person, they seem legit. You go on this app and it's like, oh shit, they've screwed over 20 people already, and it's like, I'm not going to associate with that person.
Anything petty becomes a capital offense, Nick.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's where and that's exactly why people online are kind of causing a little stir here. Some people have even said that this app is going to cause people to get killed because of the stuff that people may say on it. And other people, again, we're talking about how people may lie about you, try to discredit people, and how it could be used for bullying and things like that. According to one of the co-founders of the company, they in their defense, and this is a quote from the article, if a mom wants to look up a coach for her kids, she can see all the amazing things on that person's profile, but maybe there's some areas of improvement for that person. So when the mom upgrades to the Truth license, the Truth license is like when you pay for the paid version of this app, because the app is free. When you pay for the paid version of it, you get to see all the negative comments, because when you have the free version, all you can see is the positive stuff. So you upgrade to the Truth license. So when the mom upgrades to the Truth license, she'll be able to see all the recommendations on the back end that the coach never published in their profile. And so they're trying to play it in a positive light here, but this thing is going to be really controversial. It just became available today for Apple phones. And so I guess we're going to have to wait and see how this thing plays out. Everyone out there sooner or later may have a profile on this thing. And I don't know, man. It's going to be very interesting to see. I don't know. I'm kind of neutral on this because I can see the positive sides of it. I could also see how really bad this can get.
Imagine this in like junior high and high school, Nick. It's not going to be good.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, people are so famously judgmental online already. We don't really need to make it even easier for them.
There you go. That's true. So last thing I want to talk about here, we got a couple news stories on the anti-media about food safety. McDonald's is being slammed globally for its labor practices, and they've been having a concerted effort around the world to oppress their labor. That's over at McDonald's. Europe is kind of rebelling against glyphosate, Monsanto, Roundup, all that stuff, because they're getting ready to reissue the licensing for the European Union for glyphosate, and people are like, hell no, we're not letting that shit be used in Europe anymore. So that's going to be an interesting development to follow. I wrote an article, I think it was on Friday, about how the legalizing of cannabis is cutting into the profits of the drug cartels. And so this article, I'm very happy, I'm pretty proud of it, and it went pretty viral too. It's actually still going big on Reddit. I don't know what happened. We got censored on Reddit. I got like 3,000 upvotes and it didn't go anywhere. Surprise, surprise. But
El Chapo probably bought Reddit.
El Chapo censored me on Reddit, so he's an asshole or whatever. But this is really positive news, actually. It goes to show that legalizing cannabis, at least to start with, is having a positive effect on the drug war. I mean, the cartels are responsible for a great deal of violence. In fact, some estimates say that in 2011 alone, the cartels, drug war violence in Mexico was responsible for 27,000 civilian deaths, and that's more than all the official civilian deaths in Afghanistan. I'm sure it's actually higher than that. But according to official estimates, all the years in the war in Afghanistan were not as bad as 2011 in Mexico for the drug war. And so what we're starting to see here is this effect of legalizing cannabis in the United States is having that same effect that we've seen in the other examples, Portugal and Ireland and other countries that have taken steps to decriminalize or legalize cannabis and other drugs, is that it has positive effects. It brings the trafficking out of the shadows. It helps with the addiction rates. It helps people get treatments, and it helps people not get locked up for victimless crimes. We're coming to the end here. Thank you all for tuning in to the Anti-Media Radio. We'll be back Wednesday, but the Anti-Media Radio is 5 days a week, same place, same time here on UCY TV or the antimedia.org/radio. Peace out.
stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.